Okay. Hi, Maria Lucia. Good
Hello,
to have you
Sandra.
back. Good to have you back. Hello, everyone, and welcome to NL Alumni Network Netherlands. As you all know, this is part of the NL Alumni Network, an association for international students and alumni residing in the Netherlands. But since we're now virtual, we've been able to actually embrace much more of a wider community, not only in the Netherlands, but actually worldwide. So we're really happy to start our new version of the former Holland Alumni Network, which is now the NL Alumni Network. So very happy to have you join. And as you all know, Maria Lucia has been the tremendous engine behind all these virtual engagement and the virtual events. And she's been hosting a lot of the events online. And this time, she's joining me for the new one. So, Maria Lucia, would you like to talk a little bit more about what we've been doing with Here to Start and Here to Work?
Whoa, we have only 1 hour, so I would just summarize it because we have done so many different things last years, and of course, due to the whole virtuality of nowadays, we managed to reach more than 2,000 people last year. Just
Wow.
by hosting regular events on a monthly basis. And as you also mentioned, we have two different brands to support our international talented community. One is Here to Work, and the other one is Here to Start. Here to Start is focusing on everything that you need to know to start your business in the Netherlands or to scale up to the Netherlands. And you know that's only like focused on international entrepreneurship. And Here to Work is all about finding a job, thinking about what are the next steps for your
Yep.
career as an international professional. Well, we have so many members here in the Netherlands and also all over, more than 70,000 members. So of course we do, and we take this seriously, like really to help you to get that job done, you know, to get that business done. And that's what we do. So we host regular events. For that, by the end of this webinar, we're also going to share a forum where you can get invited to our upcoming events and also suggest topics that are relevant for you right now. Because, you know, we're all like another Zoom event, another webinar. No, we want to stay relevant. And for that, we want to bring you what really matters for you. And that's exactly how I want to introduce Alvaro, aka Mr. Cover Letter, like one of my potential new BFFs, by the way. He's Argentinian. He's based in Amsterdam, North, really important. And he's all about helping people to find a job. Actually, that's what he's doing. And he was sharing this now in our prep session that he has a goal of how many. I won't leave the big numbers for him. But the point is that he's going to help a lot of people. And that's why we're joining forces, because we have an amazing, talented community looking for job opportunities. And, you know, like we want to be there throughout all the stress, the anxiety, the excitement that this is. So today is going to be dedicated to a specific topic on the whole career search, job search, which is how to craft a magnetic resume. I think CV, what everybody knows as a CV. And we're going to talk about really actionable points on what you can do. And we're going to invite you as well to more like deep event in relation to this topic by the end. So first we go through a little presentation by Alvaro. Then we have the Q&A session, which is the most exciting moment of all of our events, because that's why we host a live event, right? So make sure that you share all of your questions, comments, really use that box. Yeah, we're going to be like really calling for that. And by the end, we invite you to the next events, and yeah, let you know. For everybody who didn't register to this event via Eventbrite, please make sure that you share your email via the form, so you can get invited and also receive an email with this events recording and also a special invite for our next event. With that, I just want to welcome Alvaro. Alvaro, where are you?
Can you see
And
me?
give him a little introduction. Yes,
Okay.
Sandra,
Hey,
thank you for the intro.
hey, Maria, Sandra. Hello, everyone.
Welcome, Alvaro. Wonderful to have you here. We're really excited to listen to you and get you started.
Yeah, me as well. Me as well. I'm really grateful to be here and to have this opportunity, and to everyone on the other side for joining.
Thank you, Alvaro. So a little introduction about yourself. First things first, let's talk about who you are, how you end up in the Netherlands, and how you end up founding Mr. Co-Letter, in 2017.
Good. So I'll just keep it short. As you said, we have 1 hour, so I rather make this about everybody else here so that everyone can get the best value out of this session. But just to keep it short, I came here 10 years ago. I've been a job seeker. I've been a hiring manager. And since 3 years, I specialize as a personal brand expert to help people basically improve how they present themselves. As a job seeker, I struggled a lot in the Netherlands in my beginnings, also as a Latin American, right? So I kind of blended all the cultural nuances of what it means to be Latin American in the Netherlands, and I try to share that with everyone else so that they don't do the same mistakes that I've done in the beginning. So as you said, I have the goal to help 1 million job seekers before 2030 to find a great job. So with this webinar, it also helps a lot.
Wonderful. Well, we'll definitely want to help you reach that goal, Alvaro. Thank you. Well, I'll let you start your
should we just start? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
so we have half an hour. I'm just going to time it so that we keep everything focused. And I'm going to share my screen. Just please confirm, Sandra, if you can see my screen. So then I'll just start.
It's loading up.
Okay. So while it loads up, I'll just let's do a quick icebreaker with everyone on the other side. If you could give me some feedback and give me a sense of which country do you live in and which type of job are you looking for, and you can place that on the comments, that would give us some sense of connection and for me also to see who's on the other side. So if you could take 1 minute, just say, hey, I'm from this country and I'm looking for this specific type of job. That would really help us get started. Let's see. Now, sometimes it takes a couple of seconds, but I see Oscar there. There doesn't seem to be any comment. There, Oscar. It's from Colombia. I live in the Netherlands. Welcome, Oscar. What type of job are you looking for? We have Florentina. Welcome, Florentina. Nice to have you. We have Manuela and Jonathan. Jonathan comes from South Africa. He's looking for jobs in the environmental sector. We have David from Mexico looking at a job in the automotive software engineering. So this is great. So what I want to ask you also, besides of what I'm going to be sharing today, is that if you see someone, you have names and last names sometimes, and then we will share ways to connect. But if you see someone that is looking for something similar to the areas you work, I invite you to connect. That's one of the most important things you can do and also take from this event today is try to connect from someone else rather than us as well. That will expand your network and also, give you other views on how others do stuff. So we have people from Argentina, Romania. Wow, this is amazing, guys. So I'm super excited. So as everyone keeps interacting, I'll just start. I have a lot to share. I have a lot of things packed for you. I'm going to go fast. We're going to leave the questions for the end. And then, I'll be able to answer as much as I can. Yeah? So, how to craft a magnetic resume. My name is Alvaro. I won't spend much time introducing myself. You can go to my website. There's a whole About Us section that will give you much more detail of what is it that I do and how can I help. But the first question I want to answer is, what is a magnetic resume? And for me, a magnetic resume, it's the one that generates enough curiosity amongst either a recruiter or a hiring manager to get you a job interview. And this is one of the most important things to have in mind, because many people spend a lot of time working on the perfect resume or telling their whole life story or explaining really well all their core abilities. But the reality is that a resume only needs to generate curiosity. Right? It won't get you the job. It will get you a foot in the door so somebody else can get to know you and you can get to know somebody else better. That's it. So with that, I want to take the weight out of how would I say, everyone puts on the resume. The resume is not a magic bullet, it's just a presentation form in a paper with text, and it needs to generate curiosity. So that's the first thing that I want to get right in our mindset. Yeah? So the second question will be basically, I'm missing a slide here. How do we generate curiosity, right? And there are three things that will activate curiosity amongst a hiring manager. The first one is that it needs to be readable. Yeah? And the second thing is that it needs to be relatable. And the third thing is that it needs to be very enthusiastic. It needs to be radiant. So it's three letters. It's readable, relatable, and revamping. And I will discuss that a little bit later on. So we're gonna go and deep dive how you create these three actions from your resume. So the second thing I would like you to think about is, these days, this is how the office of a hiring manager might look like. If you look at any LinkedIn application process, you are sending applications within other 150, 200 people maybe applying for the same job. Everyone's really, really crowded these days. So we need to find a way to stand out. And usually when you're on the other side, and I've been many times as a hiring manager, you get resumes that look something like this. You need to work really hard into joining the dots and trying to understand what is it that this person is trying to tell me. How is it his professional background, their interests, and their future visions of the world, and how they see our company connect with us. And sometimes it's really, really difficult. So what I want to share you today is some ways in which you can make it really easier and really magnetic for someone to see you and see your value and see your story in a much better way. So as I was saying, how do we generate curiosity? You need to make your resume readable first. You need to make it relevant, and you need to make it radiant. And we're going to deep dive into how we do that. So I'm going to drink a bit of water. I see we have people from the Netherlands. We have people from Nigeria. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to have you. So the first thing is, how do we make it readable? And basically, there are two things to have in mind when we create a magnetic resume. One thing is design, and the other thing is content. And for me, design always needs to be simple, and content needs to be relevant, needs to be key. But most important, and not many people are aware of this, it needs to be readable by two types of entities. It needs to be readable by machines, but also by humans. So what I mean with this, machines are software, computers, and many organizations have these days what they call an application tracking system, or ATS, which is basically a software that processes application. Imagine if you're receiving 200 or 300, sometimes 400 applications, not all of them are going to be read by a human first. They're going to be read by a machine, a software that's going to scan, and it's going to start looking for things they're interested and they're relevant about the position. So I see this machine or this software as a cookie monster. You know, it just grabs cookies, but we need to make sure that we give the cookie monster the right cookies. So basically, what do machines or an ATS software reads really well? It reads really well text, simple text, clear fonts, color black, simple text, and it reads bullets. They can scan things and they can classify that really well. And they also read keywords. They're looking for key things. If you're looking for a marketing manager, they're going to scan for that word. Or they're looking for an experienced software developer, they're going to scan for those words. And that's always for the hiring manager or the HR team to decide, but they scan a resume. So what does the cookie monster doesn't read very well, because every software has different capabilities. It doesn't read design really well. I mean, sometimes it cannot differentiate if it's a nice design or a bad design. It doesn't read images very well. It doesn't read lines, nor graphics, nor icons, nor links, no boxes, no pictures, nothing. All of those things, if you have them in your current resume, I would invite you to take them off. Basically, because if they don't read it, they cannot scan it, they cannot process it or understand what it is, it might be the case that they don't see it. And if they don't see the information you're trying to share, you might not end in the shortlist. So if by the moment you grab your CV and you think, hey, it's really nice design, I have my picture, I have really cool icons, I have a lot of links, and you have what it takes to apply for a job and you're not getting invited, this might be one of the reasons. So I'd like to invite you to think from now on that your resume needs to see also readable by machines. And for that, we only focus on text and keywords. And we're going to talk about that a bit later. So what else do a resume is read by a hiring manager? So we had machines and we had humans. If the ATS filters a certain amount of resumes and creates a shortlist of, say, 6 to 10 candidates, it goes to a human, maybe a recruiter or an HR person, or directly to a hiring manager, depending on the position. Hiring managers are looking for specific things, right? And those are stories. We are wired as humans to understand stories. And we look for, as a hiring manager, we look of stories that could show us your purpose as a professional. What is it that you want to do? How do you do it? Why do you want to do it? And we're looking for achievements, which is basically things you've done in your previous professional experience that you can bring to our organization as well. And we're looking to understand your values as a person. What do you find important, and how do those values will relate to our organization, and if there's going to be a cultural or a value fit for us to get to know each other and maybe work together. So this is one of the things I will deep dive later on, but when we talk about achievements, the easiest thing to do is to think about things where you improve stuff in your previous current role or your previous role. And the easiest thing to think about it is stuff that increased or decreased based on the input of your work. And that could be stuff like improving quality of a product or a service, or you did something which reduces cost in an organization, or you improve the process that brought more sales, or you trained a lot of people that created an increase in sales, or you executed a project really well and you finished it before time deadline, and you had spare budget that you could use somewhere else, etc., etc. Everyone has achievements, and even though you might think, hey, I don't have many of them, everyone has something in their professional experience. Even though if you're just graduated, there's always something to look into the work you do that can be translated as an achievement. So the invitation is to talk always about achievements rather than responsibilities, and we're going to talk about that in a bit. And what else do we look as a hiring manager? When we look for resumes, we look for transferable skills, which are basically either hard or soft skills that you have and you can bring to our position depending on the industry we are working. And by this, it could be stuff like being good with teamwork, or having listening skills, or questioning skills, or project management skills. It's all stuff that no matter you've done in a specific context, you can also bring to an organization. If we are interested, yeah, it will most likely be a good fit. So remember, readable by machines, but also by humans. So one of the things, remember when we were talking about joining the dots, there's a simple way in which we can prioritize information. So when a hiring manager or a machine reads it, understands where to look for. So suppose if you have your resume, I would like to invite you to think as an inverted pyramid where we put all the most important information on the top. just the top 1/3 or 1/5 of your resume, because in reality, when somebody looks at the resume, you take between 10 to 15, 20, 30 seconds the most. So you need to find what you're looking for really, really fast. So always think the most important stuff, the things you want them to know and you want to make sure they see, you need to put them at the top. So who you are, what is it, what that you do, where do you come from, where do you live, where do you want to work, why do you want to work here, when did you came, your main achievements, the stuff that you're really, really proud from either your current role or previous roles that could be of interest for the potential organization you want to work for. You need to put them really, really above on top of your resume. Your key competences that are also relatable to the position you're applying, they need to be really easy to discover. And once you do that, then you can focus on all the rest of the stuff like your professional experience, where you worked before, the achievements or responsibilities for a specific job, the education, your certificates, volunteer work, or hobbies you have. But sometimes people think about the resume as a really, really long CV where we tell everything that we've done in our lives, and that's sometimes, or the majority of the times, not very useful for someone on the other side, which really needs to look over 10 or 15 resumes and find exactly the things you're looking for. So always remember, inverted pyramid, the most information, the things you want to make sure that the hiring manager sees, they need to be at the top. So that's how you make it readable. Now, more important, you need to make it relevant. And this is a key thing when it comes to application and the difference between resumes and CVs. We're going to discuss that in a bit. But basically, relevancy means, is this of interest of the organization I am applying for? And the first thing we need to understand is that organizations hire people to solve problems. So I'm going to ask a question and then I can catch my breath a bit. I'll ask you to give you input in the chat. So consider the following. If your kitchen breaks or your shower breaks, who do you call to solve it? And I would like if a couple of you could answer. That would be great in the comment section. Who do you call to answer if your kitchen sink breaks? Let's see if somebody dares. Nobody? Okay, I will call a handyman. Okay, well done, Florentina. You would try to fix it yourself. That's really good. A plumber, the landlord, a plumber, Angelica, a plumber. Well done. Yeah, I see very entrepreneurial people. The repairing company. Well done, Spinoza. You see, most likely, if you wouldn't know how to fix it or you wouldn't want to bother your landlord, you would call the plumber, right? So something similar happens with organizations. When they put a job ad, they're looking for a specific profile with certain skills and responsibilities and expertise to solve a specific problem they have in their organization. They need to fill a vacancy in a team or in various teams, and they put that job out for a reason. They're really clear. Now, the problem comes when we do applications with not a magnetic resume, is that we show up something like this. We show up telling a lot of things, a lot of our professional story, our experiences. We're good in this, we're good in that, we're good in another stuff, and we've done this, but we could also do this and that creates a lot of noise. Now, we are looking for a plumber, and we get a multi-band person. I'm a generalist, don't get me wrong. I'm all pro about generalists and having a lot of competences, but when it comes to applications, we need to be really specific. We need to be relevant, and we need to be readable, and we need to react to the specific job application. So how do we become relevant is the question. Now, the most important thing I can share is stick to the job ad. We look for a plumber, we have certain characteristics, we need to find out which of those are really relevant, and we need to mirror and tweak a resume so that it creates relevancy and resonance. So if you think quickly about a job ad, usually a job ad has something like a context, a little description about the organization or what's the position trying to fill. It has the key responsibilities, so what's the job you will be doing, which is basically what you will get paid for. And in reality, the person hired for is the one that creates the most amount of trust that, hey, we believe this person can do the job and can also prove or make the case that they can bring the best return of investment. Now, you might be thinking, hey, many times the person being hired is not the most competent for the job. Yeah, that happens. That's often a reality. But in our intent to apply for a job, we need to relate really, really well with these points. It's the key responsibilities. So the job ad also has a lot of key skills, like, hey, you are skilled in this language or that language, or you have this title, or we are preferring a candidate that has proactivity and is data-driven. That's all nice, but when it comes to applying, we need to focus most likely or the most amount we can in the responsibilities, because that's what we are going to be hired for. Sometimes you have something like hiring conditions and you have a contact detail and a deadline, and that's basically, in a nutshell, the majority of the job ads out there. Now, something really interesting is that usually job ads, they don't tell you specifically what's the problem. Yeah? So they tell you, hey, you'll be working on this or you'll need to do this, but they don't tell you exactly what the problem is. And many times that's because of matter of privacy. You're not going to be sharing all your problems out there in a job ad, but it's always my invitation to try to find out really what the problem is. And sometimes when you read a job ad, you think, hey, this job is exactly for me. I can totally do this. But the reality is that many times we don't know, right? Because organizations and teams and managers and individuals within a team, they have dynamics, right? And if you don't know what's going on within the dynamics, the reality is that little we know about what is it exactly that we need to solve. So a step further, I always advise, have a call, try to contact with someone from the organization or the hiring manager itself and try to find out what the problem is, because that will allow you to really first find out if you want to work there, but also how you can adapt your resume so that you can create the most relevancy as possible. I see sometimes even they're confused with the role or it's a very general position. That's right, Florentina, totally. And at times, even the title is slightly different than the job description. That also happens. I mean, there's a lot of people out there writing job descriptions and they are not trained for it. And I had a lot of missed cases myself, and also a lot of clients of mine, they sometimes land in jobs which within the 2 or 3 months they call me and they tell me, hey, Alvaro, this is so not what I was expecting, or nothing relatable to the job I signed that contract for. So we need to be really careful with this, and the more information you can get, the better. So it needs to be readable, it needs to be relevant, and it needs to be radiant. And when I think about radiant, I think about positivity, vision, and enthusiasm, right? And you can tell when you read multiple resumes in comparison that the choice of words within one or the other, they make a difference. And they're words that really inspire and bring positivity and vision. They are forward-looking and they are enthusiastic, and they're words that are not, right? And they're more depressed, or they're past-looking. And this is one of the most important things to get right when creating a magnetic resume. A lot of people think that a CV or a master CV is just telling the story of the past. Now, in my eyes, you need to tell your past, but connect with your present, but also explain where your future lies. And it's when you make that connection that you really create the magic, because you can answer questions before they are even asked, but you can also explain where you come from, where you are, and where is it that you want to go. And we're going to talk how we can do that. So have a read at this. You put a job out there because your kitchen broke, and there's this plumber number one, that applies and calls you and presents, and it tells you this. And I'll give you 1 minute to read it, and then I can sip some water. So you check at this presentation of the first plumber, which applied to your job ad, and there's also plumber number two, which comes referred by a colleague, which presents himself in this way. So the question is, while you finish reading the second description, is who would you hire and why? If you want to give me some comments, I would be delighted to read them. Plumber one or plumber two? Let's see. Somebody? For me, it's obvious. I would most likely, probably not hire directly, but I would be more inclined to talk to plumber two first. Why? Because they think about me. They're not thinking about themselves, but they are also giving me a vision, how it would look like once he does the job. And they seem very positive and enthusiastic and very secure about the fact that they can do the work. Right? Plumber two, there's a vision. Saratu Lau, I will hire plumber one. I would love to hear why. That's also good, right? Plumber two, he knows the problem and what needs to be done. David says plumber two. The second is way too informal, says Dimitri, though it's fine for a plumber. That's right, we can talk about formality and informality. But this is great. Thanks everyone for giving input. So when I say how do we become radiant, we need to connect our past. So in our past, we have our education and our professional experiences. We also have achievements. Everybody has achievements. We might think that we don't, but the reality is that everybody has, and every time I talk to people, there's a way to extract them and put them in a story. And we have responsibilities, things we've been responsible for, but that's the past, right? And many times people only focus on the past. And the interesting thing is to connect this with your present. What do you value today? What's really important for you? What are your core abilities today? Not the things that you've done 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And maybe because you've done that, it doesn't mean you want to continue doing them. Or maybe because you were good at something doesn't mean you want to do it still. We all change, right? Life is very dynamic. So in your present, you have your values, you have your core abilities, you have your strengths. What are the things that you're really good at today, or you want to continue experimenting? But most important, there's the future, right? You're moving, you're changing jobs, or you're looking for a new one, or you're moving countries, and you have this idea of where you want to go. So how you explain that connection and the problems you solve, the things you're really good at solving, and how you connect them with an opportunity, a job application, or an organization which is facing similar problems than the ones that you are able to solve, that's where the magic and the magnetism happens, because you tell your story in a really clear, concise, and simple way. And many people forget to do this. They only talk about the past. And that's why it's really easy if you make some adjustments and you connect your past and you explain this, to create a relevancy and, most important, resonance. So let's dive in. Let me check the time. I think we're doing good. One of the things I want to clear out is what's the difference between a resume, a master CV, and a LinkedIn profile, right? And many people see this different. I'm going to show you how I think about them. And if you think that's a good way to go about it, you can take it on board. If not, you can continue doing what you're doing. That's also fine. So let's start with the following. A CV, it's all your professional experience. It's a story of your life. It's all the things that you've done. It's all the competencies that you have. It's all your achievements, all the jobs you work, all the education you had, either your secondary school, university, master's, PhD, certificates, courses. It's all the technology you can manage. It's your personal values. It's your hobbies. It's everything about you and the track record of your professional experience. Now, many times organizations ask for a CV, especially in academia, and that's good. You can send 4, 5, 6, 8 pages because they demand for it, and that's okay. No? But usually you are good to go with a resume. And a resume is, in my opinion, a one page that explains how you are relevant, that it's easy to read, and that explains in a really positive way how you match the job requirements. And the reason why one page usually does the job, and sometimes I even help people and we do resumes of 2 pages, depending on the occasion, and that's also fine, but it needs to be easy to understand. Remember the image about joining the dots? You want to make it really easy for the hiring manager to understand why they get curious about you and why they should invite you for an interview. So with one page, usually you're really good to make that first impression, like a movie trailer, like a 1-minute movie trailer. When you go to the movies and after the first trailers, you think like, hey, I want to see that movie. That's the effect we want to create with a resume. So what we're going to do is we're going to select aspects of our professional experience that are relevant to the job description. And all the rest, we're going to leave it out. It doesn't mean that we are lying or we are hiding it. We're just not going to put it in the spotlight. That's the idea. Because we want to generate curiosity and we want to get invited for a further exploration of a relationship. So in a nutshell, that's the main difference. A resume is to be relevant according to each specific job description. Many times they ask me, hey, Alvaro, do I need to tweak every CV for every application? Yes, that's non-negotiable because every job description usually asks for something really specific to their situation, and that's why you need to mirror it. Now, you will say, hey, but what's LinkedIn doing in all of this? Well, LinkedIn has the best of both worlds, right? Because you can put a lot of stuff in there from your whole life. You can put all your jobs. You can make it super long because it's something different to scroll online than to see a PDF. It doesn't have that effect. If you have a long LinkedIn, that's fine. I mean, the application just constrains information, so you can read more whenever you want. But you can also have other stuff in your LinkedIn where you can keep things that, for example, referrals from people, or you can have your image, your personal image, or you can have a header image, or you can have your portfolio or testimonials from people that have worked with you. So I usually think of master CV. You have all your personal life experience. When you apply for a job you like, you just delete stuff that's not useful and you keep it to a one-page resume, and all the rest you send to LinkedIn, right? You can have whatever you want. If somebody is interested and gets curious about you with your resume, they will most likely go to a LinkedIn profile further on to see in depth what is it that your story has to offer. So I usually work with these 3 things, and my invitation is that you do as well. Keep a master CV with everything that you ever done. You think about it once and for all, then you create a resume for each job application, and in LinkedIn you have all whatever stuff you want to add. So Bolande says, so do you send in your resume or the master CV? No, you send usually the resume unless they ask you for a CV. Now, the caveat is that many people ask for a CV, but they actually want a resume. So that's something that you'll need to judge on your own. Usually with a resume, you're good to go. So having said that, what are the key resume sections you need to have in mind? And you can screenshot this right now so that you have it forever. But the idea is that you think about it as an inverted pyramid. Remember, the most important thing you want them to know at the top, then the second most important things below, and then the rest. Yeah? So this is something like a checklist. So screenshot, have it for yourself. And the most important thing is your complete name, your target job title, which is, hey, who are you? What are you applying for? Your contact details, your country of origin, your country and the city where you live. If you have your LinkedIn profile, it's very recommendable to add it here. If you don't, it's very recommendable to have one. Your portfolio, a personal website. Some professionals have a personal website. I do, for example, I add it. Your status visa, if you're going to another country and you do have that visa, in order, it's really good that you put it up front there. And if you don't, it's advisable that you just say that you are open to relocation. And sometimes something really important is your availability. Some people need to give a 1 or a 2 or a 3 months notice in their current job before they jump into a new one. But if you're available to work, it's really advisable to just say it openly. Hey, I can start as soon as possible. So that in your header, right? Because when you scan a resume, that's the stuff you're looking for as a hiring manager. So the more clear you are about it, the better. And below, you're going to go with a purpose. Who are you? How do you solve problems? And why do you solve those problems? You can go with an executive summary, which explains a bit of your past and your present. And if you're doing, for example, an industry switch or a career jump, or you have a career gap, that's the place where you might want to explain it so that it's clear and it's in the open there for somebody to understand, because they will otherwise see it later on. You have your main achievements, the things you're really, really keen and proud of, and that make you really happy about your professional experience and that you want them to see and know. You don't want the hiring manager to be digging all across your resume to find stuff. You want to give it to them really, really easy. Your key competencies, the key technologies you manage, relevant to the job ad. And then we jump into your professional experience, which is basically to which companies or organizations you work for. And it's also a good practice to put a 1 line or 2 lines description about what that organization does, because many times we say, hey, I work here and I work there, but if it's a medium size or a small organization, most likely the other person reading it might not know it, especially if it comes from another country. So it's really good to give context, right? What did that organization did, what type of clients, maybe some numbers on the client size or the budget size, or something that could give an impression on where have you worked, right? You will describe your achievements, things that you've achieved in your roles, and things you were responsible for. And then inverted pyramid, your education, certificates, and other stuff like software you manage, or if you've done volunteer work, that's really relevant to put. I'm a big fan of volunteer work. I try to do a lot of volunteer work, and I encourage people to do volunteer work. And if you've done some, add that to your resume. Languages you speak that are relevant to the job ad, and hobbies, things of interest that you do when you're not working. And that's very important also because they give a sense of who you are as a person and what are your values as well. What do you find interesting? And they can even be a really good icebreaker when you reach to an interview process. So also screenshot this one and you will have it. But in all these areas, there are things that can go wrong. So I just want to give you a glimpse now so that you have really good takeaways of where I think the majority of the resumes go wrong. And it's in these areas in red, which are the target job title, your achievements, and not very clear purpose, which explains your past, your present, and your future. And also your hobbies. I find this area very important because it also gives you context of who you are as a person. And the reality is that you are unique and we are all different. And I like this session to show off and engage and maybe generate even curiosity among someone reading a resume. So I'm going to give you some examples and then you can decide how you feel about them and if you're going to take them on board. Yeah. So should we go? Let's see there. Yeah, Oscar says, could you please give some examples about the purpose? Yeah, I'm going to give one now. So let's go. Thing number one, add your target job title. If you're a program manager looking for a program manager role and the job ad says they're looking for a program manager, make sure you add the word program manager. It makes a difference. That's the first thing a hiring manager looks at. It seems simple, but a lot of people don't do this, and that work only works against you. So in this case, if you see Mariela Smith with the header above or the one below, adding the target job title makes it a lot more relevant, right? Because you immediately see, I'm looking for a plumber, this person is a plumber. I'm looking for a software developer in embed system, this person is a software developer in embed system. So after this webinar, go to resume. If you've done applications and you haven't had target job titles, start doing it right away. And then you can add information about your visa or your availability. It just makes a lot more solid. If you add your LinkedIn or a personal website, that's the first thing a hiring manager looks at. Yeah, so add from now on, if you haven't done so, your target job title. As a second thing, the purpose. Somebody there, Oscar, was asking the question, hey, can you give an example? Here's one, and I'll give you a second to read. The person above has something like an executive summary, which is looking mainly to the past about what they've done. Whereas the second below, the person below, is adding a purpose. Is basically talking about what they do, why they want to do it, and how do they do it. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the one above, but I'll assure you that the one below will be more relatable. If these are the main things the job description is looking for, and you tie them together for somebody reading them, it will have a better effect because it will be talking about our problems as an organization and not about who you are as a professional, right? So that's an easy way how you do it. You talk about the problems you solve, how you solve them, and why you do them. What's the effect after your work and you've been involved with the work, and that will create a lot of resonance. So as much as you can have both. You can have an executive summary looking at the past and at the present, but you can also add a purpose, and that will have a really magnetic effect, because if that's what they're looking for, you will hit a home run. So target job title, purpose, simple way, but many people forget this part, is to discuss an achievement. And this is the difference between a responsibility, things you were responsible for, versus things that you were responsible for but also had a positive effect in the organization. And everybody has this. You just need to look, think about them, and write them down. Easier said than done. But the main thing here is that responsibilities, they might sound good, but when you read them from the other side, sometimes it's not clear if you were good at them or not. So here a simple example. You have Marilla Smith, who managed a team and developed a virtual assistant. That's great. I'm sure she has really good intentions. But if you take it a little bit further and you try to showcase what was the effect of your involvement, you can show the achievement, and that will have a better effect. In this case, remember positive enthusiasm, ambition. In this case, we can turn that responsibility and showcase the achievement by saying something like design, mentor, and manage, should say there. Sorry for the typo. 5 people technical team implementing a virtual assistant which now handles 1,000 support requests and helps reduce human agents involvement, saving 880 hours per month. And the interesting thing about an achievement is that it's factual, right? I mean, the idea is that you don't lie or you don't exaggerate, but you just keep and state the facts. That will have a really bigger effect than the responsibility, because we're giving context and we are showing cause and effect. And it doesn't mean for the person reading it that it's a good achievement, right? I might read it and say, hey, 880 hours, that's nothing. You could have done better. That could be the case. Or it can lead you to the other way. Somebody can read it and think, hey, that's amazing. We need some of that here. And that happens all the time. We just need to talk about it in a clear way. And we all have achievements. Trust me, you as well. And the last thing is hobbies. I mean, this is one of my favorite things, because in the end, besides the technical aspects, we're looking for persons that can relate well with our organization and culture, right? And many people just stay shallow here, or just touch the surface and say things like, hey, I like reading music or being in the nature. Nothing wrong with that. But I think you can generate a lot more curiosity if you really put yourself out there a bit more. And you could say the same but different by just showing and not telling that you like to read or you like music or nature, which doesn't tell me much about you, because everybody kind of likes those things. But if you tell me that you read over 30 books last year, mainly about coding, and you're a software engineer, and you listen to Emir Kusturica, and you're currently training for your 3rd triathlon, that tells me something about who you are. And believe it or not, I've seen it all the time. There are really great ways to use this as an icebreaker. When you start your interview, hey, I've done a triathlon myself. How was it for you? It just connects you more as a human level. So my invitation is always, hey, talk about yourself. I had clients which are men and grow orchids, and they're not afraid to share it, and that's fantastic. Just put yourself out there a little bit more. You won't regret it. So that's my invitation about the hobbies. So having said that, there's a lot of things to share, but yeah, I think we are on time at the moment. So wrapping up, what is it that your resume needs to do, and how do you create magnetism? You need to show that you get it, you understand what problem the organization is trying to solve, because you've done your research and you're mirroring and relating to the job ad. You need to show you want it, right? Put a lot of enthusiasm and positive energy, so that you become radiant in the words and the stories you tell. And you need to show that you can do the work, right? And many people think immediately when they read it, hey, I can do it, but they don't communicate it with objective examples from their past. So I get it, I want it, and I can do it, and here is why. So that was it. This is kind of the end of this webinar. If you want to hit me an email, please do. I read everything and I'm quite approachable. In my website, you'll find a lot of the tips and tricks. If you want to sign to the newsletter, or you'll find templates or a lot of things of these ideas that I put in writing, or you can also connect via social media. So I enjoyed this a lot. I hope you did as well. Before we hand over to Sandra, if you would like to take a minute and just share in the comment section, what is it that you found most useful about this hour together? I would really like to read you. So that was it, Sandra. Oh, I think it's on mute. Maybe I need to stop sharing screen. Oh, I think you're on mute, Sandra.
Oh, silly me.
There.
Not. Sorry. Well, I was saying, Alvaro, thank you so much. It was a fantastic presentation.
Thank
I
you.
really liked how you took us through the 3 R's, through the inverted pyramid, and how you connected, and especially how you connected the past, present, and future to really create a radiant CV. So thank you so much for that. I think for me it was really the first time of seeing this connection from the past, present, and future to really present a vision of yourself. That for me is a wonderful takeaway. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. And to add to that, it only took me 10 years.
Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. Well, we still have a few minutes to for the Q&A, and I wanna there's one here that says, what title should we use as fresh graduates if you don't have a job title yet?
Nevkan, thank you for doing that question. That's a great question. You need to use the job title which comes as close as possible. That's my hard answer, right? So something I haven't shared this is that the job process has usually, because this is mainly about a resume, but the job process has 3 stages. And the first one is to generate curiosity. And the second one is to generate engagement, right? So if you haven't done that type of work, you need to come as close as possible. And you might not have the professional experience, but you do have the attitude, right? So if you want a job in marketing and you're just a graduate, you said marketing graduate, right? And if you're applying for a marketing director, for example, yeah, that's going to be a bit far-fetched, but you need to come as close as possible.
Great. Thank you.
That answers your question.
Here's another one from Oscar. How do you do it if you want to switch to a different job type, but somehow related? For example, if you're currently a project engineer and you want to apply for a project manager position.
Fantastic. That's a really good question, and that's a career move. There's a lot of this every day in every part of the world. It's not something weird at all. So you need to emphasize the qualities and the capabilities of a project manager. So you might have not managed people yet, right? If you need to manage people or you haven't done much project management, but you need to show how you're transitioning into it, right? So you need to tell the story of what are the skills that are transferable from your engineer background and how this can be of use in your new position. Or you could say things that, hey, I although I haven't project managed big projects yet, I've done this project management of this small projects, or I just finished my certificate, but always try to create the connection, right? So what I always say, sometimes people put themselves off as in, hey, I don't have that amount of years of experience. Should I do it? Should I apply? I say, if you feel it in your gut and you feel you have what it takes, apply. But you need to be really coherent with your attitude of how you make that bridge. You cannot expect people from the other side to make it for you. So always try to think of the transferable skills. What is it that in your project engineer work is relevant for this position, and what have you studied or practiced or volunteer on the side that makes you capable for doing the job?
Thank you, Alvaro. I think that we have just one more minute for the last question. Do you have any tips for a cover letter? And I think with that one, there was another question related to that. Do HR people actually read cover letters?
That's a really great question, Jonathan. I have a lot of tips. There's a reason why they call me Mr. Cover Letter. 10 years ago, I was very frustrated because I didn't know how to write one or how to make one engagement. And within time, I professionalized in telling stories with them. So I have a lot of tips, but this is not a webinar about cover letters. It's about a magnetic resume. What I can tell you is this. Your application first goes usually, depending on the organization size, through a machine, right? So the system scans for keywords and they scan cover letters too. If you get to a short list, most likely of 6 to 10 people, hiring managers will most likely read them because it can be a differentiator of showing your passion and your attitude and how you connect your story with the one of the organization. What I can assure you is that recruiters and HR, they are full of applications. They are dealing with 200 applications, 300. They're most likely are not going to read them all, right? So a cover letter is something of a long shot. In my opinion, I think it's crucial to write one because it clarifies your thought and your intentions. And it's also a really good exercise for pre-interview material, right? Because if you clarify your thoughts and you can make these connections really clearly, you will most likely perform really well in an interview. But not everybody reads them.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Yes, I totally agree. Alvaro, thank you so much.
You're
Extremely
welcome.
helpful.
Thank you.
And well, we hope to have you back sometime in the future. Maria Lucia?
Thank you, Alvaro. What can I say? Wow, a lot of information, a lot of people interacting. We're really happy when we have such, great space and interactive space with everybody. For those who didn't register and just came directly to YouTube, we really encourage you to fill in a form that we're going to be sharing, so you get invited to this event and our common events, and also receive the thank you email, which includes the recording of this presentation and also the next steps. We want to quickly invite you to the next workshop. We're going to do an in-depth workshop on this exact topic, so you have more actionable and actually more space to discuss all of your dilemmas and challenges on your job search and in general, your career path as internationals and also as locals with Alvaro. So maybe we can tell a little bit about it, and also I will show you a little bit about the event that we have coming up. Alvaro, maybe you can share the slide. Yes,
Yep.
so you can tell us a little bit about what we're going to do next March, 11th of March. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the idea, right, is very similar to what we've just seen, but doing a deep dive. So how do you take your current status in your career, from where do you come from, where you are, and where do you want to go, and you put it together in an easy to edit format, right? In a way that you don't have to create resumes left and right for every application, but you can easily tweak things on the go. So basically, it's a deep dive of a lot of the stuff we already saw today, but in detail for every section of your resume.
Perfect.
I mean, the interesting thing is that, as I say, if you manage to crack the nut of having your master CV right, you don't think about this ever again in your life. It's one exercise that you do for once, and then you're on good track moving forward.
Great. So you're going to receive an email with the link, so you can basically register and choose how you want to get involved, because we have it's a workshop, so it's really way more customized, and you will be able to have feedback from Alvaro. We're going to be sharing that in the email, and also because you also joined to this event, we're giving you 20% off the price. So use the promo code. It's active until this promo code is valid until Thursday. So make sure that you take your your career to the next level, thanks to Alvaro, and also his mission of helping so many job seekers to find their job, especially the job that they really want and deserve, rather than a job, right?
Exactly, especially with a lot of barriers that implies, working abroad, the language barriers and things. I mean, there are a lot of things you can do about that.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, and thank you, Alvaro, again.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay. Alvaro, maybe check a little bit
Yeah.
of the comments that are there because some people
Yeah,
try
that's.
to
I
download
wanted to see the great
material
presentation.
and
Thank
what's
you.
going on. Yeah.
Many have a hard language requirement. I totally agree, Jonathan. Sometimes that's a reality. A really nice event. Thank you very much. Will it be another one about cover letter? Oh, I could talk about for hours about cover letters, Ernst. But yeah, let's try to do one. Hey, thanks a lot, everyone. I really enjoyed. I hope you find this useful as well.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.